War is described as an organized and often prolonged conflict that is carried out by states or non-state actors. It is generally characterized by extreme violence, social disruption, and economic destruction. War should be considered as an actual, intentional, and widespread armed conflict between political communities, and therefore is defined as a form of political violence or intervention. The set of techniques used by a group to carry out war is known as warfare. An absence of war is usually called peace. That's what we call peace, the absence of war. Really paints the picture that war is a constant presence throughout human history. Try picking up any history textbook that doesn't cover at least a war or at least one time. That's a pretty tall order considering since 3500 BC till now there have been approximately 300 years of peace. And those books would probably be really boring to read too. That means that about 95% of the time there's a war going on. Sounds like the norm, alright? Over 14,500 wars have cost 3.5 billion human lives. That's a lot of zeros and they've all served a purpose. It all culminates into the world we have now. All that blood, sweat, and tears got us to today. And there are still wars. Not to say things haven't changed, we've gotten smarter in many ways. Our culture isn't dominated by warfare as it once was, but at the same time, we got better at it. More precise, more deadly. Higher body counts in less time, and yet less death and less war when you look at it. Since the advent of gunpowder and the technological advances leading to modern warfare, we have become so much better at killing. Yet at the same time, less of us die. You take a look across time at the percentage of male deaths caused by warfare has dramatically decreased century after century after century, especially as places became more developed. Some may say how the world has become more militarized and deadly and ruled by armies. Those people clearly haven't looked at the data of the past, 5,000 years. It's kind of hard to overlook if you ask me. We hear how humans are the only animals that go to war. Completely true, of course, but they'd never know that. They're living in their own magical world. Only makes sense that the smartest animal would be one of them. It's so useful, so necessary. It's as political as an election or a law passing. It's as old as civilization itself. As soon as we became smart enough to do it, we've been doing it 95% of the time. Does it always get results? No. Nothing does. Not all the laws or elections get it right either. We are a trial and error species, and war has a pretty darn good track record. Words don't always work, unfortunately, but that's because you can't make people agree on things with words. But war? Now there's something you can't argue with. You have to fight it. Does the right side always win? Who's to decide which side is the right side? Who's to say that winning the war isn't a good enough justification to be considered right? They won after all, that's how it was decided ultimately. Now of course, regardless of how you determine right or wrong, statistically the right side, if there is one, couldn't always happen to win. Things just don't work out that way. It's a useful tool and we have more control over it now than ever before. But you still can't control how people think and how they act. Because this isn't a game of Sims we're playing. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a game of warfare.